this acorn placemat stroke coaster, depending on which size hoop you're using, I'm going to be using some wash away stabiliser, cutaway stabiliser floated on top, my 5x7 hoop, scissors, masking tape or painter's tape, 2 different threads with matching bobbins, and I've got my batting and fabrics cut to size. I'm going to start by hooping my wash away stabiliser. And as I said earlier, I'm going to be floating a piece of cutaway on top. I'm just going to put a little bit of tape down just to hold that from moving around while it's stitched down. And I'm going to pop that into my machine and stitch round number 1, which is the outline. I'm going to turn my hoop over and place my backing fabric over the outline and tape it down. And then I'm going to lay my batting over the top and the top fabric, or should I say the front fabric, on top of that. I'm just going to put a little bit of tape down so that it doesn't move. I'm now going to pop that in my machine and stitch round to number 2, which will secure it all together. Next is the quilting all over the acorn, so I'm stitching this with round number 3. It's now time to trim everything up, remove all the excess fabric, batting and cutaway stabiliser. So I'm going to start off by removing the tape, and then I'm going to trim up the back first. I'm now going to pop that back in my machine and stitch round number 4, which is going to do the satin stitch border around the 2 sides. It won't be doing anything here because this is going to be our join line for adding it onto the cup. Next I'm going to stitch the highlight or low light, whatever way you want to look at it, on the right hand side, and that's going to be round number 5. Now all that remains for this part is to free it from the hoop, so I'm going to take my scissors, turn it over and cut it away. This edge here you want to trim up as close as you can to the stitching, because this is going to be your join line where you add it to the next part. So I'm just going to trim it up there, taking care of course not to cut any of the stitching. Okay, that's fine. I've loaded the second file into my machine and I'm still sticking with the same thread and bobbin at the moment. I'm going to hoop my washaway stabiliser and float a piece of cutaway on top of that. It's a bit crinkly because it's the end of the reel. So I'm going to take this down. I'll pop that into my machine and stitch round number 1, which will give me the outline. Next I'm going to place my batting on top, and I'm going to put a little bit of tape just to hold it in place. I'll pop that in my machine and stitch round number 2. I'm now going to trim away all the batting. And also the cutaway stabiliser at the same time. I've nicked the outline stitch in there. I'm not going to worry about it, I'm just going to leave it well alone, and that way by the time I've added fabric and everything in, it's been stitched over, you won't even know. So it's now time to add my first fabric. So I'm going to turn my hoop over, trim up these little threads here, just so they don't poke through anywhere. And I'm going to place my first fabric over the back, covering the outline, and then tape it in place. I turn it over and add my second fabric to the front, and once again tape it down. Now I'm going to pop that back into my machine and stitch round number 3, which is going to secure both the fabrics. Next I'm just going to trim back here a little bit, just to leave about 1/4 of an inch of fabric. And I'm going to do the same on the back. Okay. Now I'm going to add my second fabric to the back, and once again I'm placing it down face up on the back of my hoop, and I'm going to tape that in place. And I'm going to do exactly the same with the front. Fabric face up and tape it down. I'm now going to pop that in my machine and stitch round number 4, which will secure the fabrics. I've changed my thread and bobbin to gold, and I'm now going to do the decorative motif stitching that's going to cover all of this with round number 5. I'm now going to trim up all the excess fabric from my hoop. Next we're going to join the first part to the second, and to do that I'm going to place this stitch line directly over the top of here, and it fits together a bit like a jigsaw. Just line it up, and I'm going to pin it. Make sure you place your pins well out of the way of the stitch line though. Now that that's pinned, I'm going to pop that back into my machine and stitch round number 6, which is going to do the join along here. I'm now going to stitch round number 7, and that's going to do the satin stitch and decorative stitching around this area of the acorn cup. And now I'm going to stitch round number 8, which is going to complete the rest of the border around the cup itself. I'm going to remove these pins and free this from the hoop. And I'm now going to dissolve all the wash away stabiliser from around the edge and from the back here. I'm just using a cotton bud dipped in water for this. And there it is, an acorn placemat. I hope you enjoyed this stitch along. If you did, please give me a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe to be notified of new videos as they're published, and thank you very much for joining me.